So this truck was coated with XOV5 just about 6 months ago. Now it's back in for its maintenance detail. Now we've already done a maintenance detail on this back in December. So now it's March. So we maintain this truck every 3 months. Now, what does maintaining a ceramic coating mean? I'm going to talk about that in the video, and I'm going to show you how to specifically wash the paint and also how do you take care of these wheels. Now, these are not a matte finish wheel and they're not a gloss finish wheel. Somewhere in between. It's more of like a satin finish. And with satin and matte wheels, even if you coat them, if you don't clean them on a regular basis, that brake dust will really ruin the finish. So you have to wash them often. Those wheels are usually expensive, so make sure to maintain them. And as we look around the truck, the owner obviously takes care of it. It's really not that bad at all. But for our pre-wash, this is what we're going to use. So what does maintenance mean? It simply means washing it properly and perhaps putting some sort of a topper on it. Some detailers don't like to call it a topper or a drying aid, but in essence, that's what it's doing. For instance, G-Technic has their C2 liquid crystal. Now they recommend washing it, of course, with their shampoos and all of their products, but you can swap out products as you see fit. But today we are going to use the C2. Now this is going to bond to the ceramic coating layer that's already on there. Now some may think, well, is that now going to hide the characteristics of that particular coating? Whether it does or doesn't really matter. And even though we're applying this every 3 months or so, I don't know what the customer is doing in between. These companies recommend using these products like this. So why would we just let a coating go without doing what the company actually recommends? So I'm going to stick with what the company recommends to do, at least this part, because it makes sense to me. Washing it and then topping it like this is just adding another layer of protection. And if it's beading water, it's beading water. Doesn't matter if it's this or the coating underneath. Doesn't matter. So that's why I'm going to continue to use topping products like this. You can swap this out for any type of ceramic-based spray sealant, basically, because SiO2 will bond to SiO2. But to pre-wash it, that's important to me because even though the truck really isn't that dirty, I'm still going to pre-wash it with something a little bit stronger. And don't be afraid, coatings are chemical resistant to both high and low pH. Of course, don't wash it with super clean or anything that's too caustic or too strong. Not to say that super clean is bad, it's totally fine to use if you dilute it properly. But I'm choosing to use something like this. So Koch Chemie Super Foam is my pre-wash for ceramic coatings. All you need is like a half an ounce for half of a foam cannon. So I have this really cool foam cannon here that I got from Temu. You can actually fill it without taking the top off, which is just a plus for me. So, you know, it's about 16-ish ounces. And I'm only going to put, yeah, that's about it. That's all you need, half an ounce. In fact, I'm going to pour a little bit of water out because I want to rinse the cup out with water and pour it back in. That way I'm not filling too much. Now I'm going to fill a second foam cannon with another shampoo that we'll use for our contact wash. This pre-wash is not for our contact wash. It's the equivalent of an APC rinse, but I do this for ceramic coated vehicles only. For initial details, I stick with my original APC rinse. And if you're curious about that, check out the card up in the corner. Now, for our actual contact wash, I'm again using a Koch Chemie shampoo. I've been using a lot of Koch Chemie recently. They've kind of become my go-to products for all of our detailing services. I still use other stuff, but I just really like their products, and especially for maintenance vehicles. I have a very specific method I use now for ceramic coated vehicles and their maintenance, and it just works. So I'm sticking with that method for now until I find something better. But for now, this combo really works well. Now, I'm using Koch Chemie Nano Magic Shampoo. This has ceramic infused in it. And actually just using it as a regular wash and wax type of product, it actually works really well. It leaves a beading surface behind and it foams up really well. Unlike other ceramic-based shampoos that don't have that foaming factor, this does. And it's slick, and I use it as my contact wash. I'm not too exacting on this. I'm just going to put a couple of glugs. It'll probably equate to maybe 2 ounces or so. I mix this a little heavy because I do like the foam when I'm contact washing. There. So now I have my pre-wash and my contact wash. Could you just do it with one solution? Yeah, you could, but on a black truck like this, I'm going to take all the precautions I can to make sure that the wash is safe. I'm going to rinse this truck and let's see how the coating is responding because I haven't done anything to it yet. So you and I are seeing this for the first time since its last detail wash, which I don't think I recorded last time.
You're going to rinse it before foaming?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, I do like to foam this dry. I'm kind of in direct sunlight, but it's not really hot out today. But it's okay to do that. If you foam the entire thing and you don't leave any dry spots at all, then it's fine. It's when you leave some dry spots and the soap starts to dry on it, I mean, you could run into some issues, but these soaps have other surfactants in them and water softening properties. So even if it dries a little bit, it's really not that big of a deal. APCs and strong cleaners, on the other hand, that drying on the paint is not good. But shampoos like this are formulated for this. One other thing to note is I'm no longer using hot water because it's pretty much warm out today. It's kind of like the first day of spring here. It's beautiful. So I piped in the cold water. So cold water is piped in, and after we're going to rinse it with our spotless water rinse here. So I plumbed it so that I can shut off the water that goes to here and it'll pipe it through the spotless system, and we'll use that just to rinse. And I'll explain why in a minute. This is just the first rinse. You and I are seeing this right now in real time, I guess you can say, because I have not rinsed this beforehand to see how the coating was going to respond. But check that out, guys. That is what we want to see. Go ahead, hit it again, baby. It's just rinsing, and you can tell the beading is just insane. This is just one layer of XO V5. All right, I just wanted to test this. It looks incredible. All the way down to the bottom, it's beading insanely well. So before we go any further, we could just rinse the whole truck. It's not a big deal. Let's just go ahead and foam the whole thing down with the super foam. Man, it looks so good. So this is why the pre-washing is so important. You're not touching the paint as of yet because there may be some grit and dirt on there that you don't want to grind into the paint. And now the truck is, I don't know, I'd say between 80 and 90% clean. A lot of that heavy grit is washed off because the super foam has some high alkalinity. It can break down that dirt and grime and effectively just kind of pull it off the coating. The coating is going to be very slick and resistant to any of that junk anyway, but grime and dust and dirt still will settle on it and stay there for a little bit. But once you pre-wash it and rinse it off, well, the paint is effectively clean. Now we can go into the contact wash. We're going to foam the entire vehicle down again and then contact wash it. This is actually very fast and efficient. And you may have noticed that this side looked a little bit more foamy than that side. It's because that foam cannon actually uses a lot of the product. All I did was just fill it up with water about halfway up again, and it just diluted the soap. I didn't add any more soap to it, which is totally fine. So the other side didn't look as foamy, but it still was able to effectively clean the paint. So I probably could have filled up the entire foam cannon all the way up and then just put half an ounce of soap in there of the super foam, and it would have been totally fine. Play with the ratios. I just got that foam cannon, so I'm still trying to learn how much product it uses. Each foam cannon is just slightly different. But again, not a problem. It's pre-washed effectively. Let's go into foaming it and then contact washing it. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that washing a ceramic coated vehicle is a pleasure. Everything cleans up easier. This is why I sell this service, because the ease of maintenance. That's what coatings do. They're not swirl proof, they're not scratch proof, they're not even completely bug and bird bomb proof. The best part of ceramic coatings is the ease of maintenance. Those things will clean off easier if you catch them in time. But just like anything, if you let any type of nasty stuff like bugs and bird bombs and tree sap and things like that sit on the paint, it's going to eat through pretty much anything. Doesn't matter. Even PPF, it can stain the PPF, and there's not much you can do if it's damaged like that. So just wash the vehicle regularly and you'll see the incredible benefits of a coating. Can you just do the same thing with waxes and sealants? Yeah, but you're not going to really get this type of effect depending on the wax or the sealant. Now, in between every other panel or so, I'm going to dunk the mitt into the rinse bucket. I do have a grit guard down there, but there's no grit on the paint. I'm just rinsing this out because there's going to be some film on here. So just rinse it out, wring it out a little bit so it's still a little damp, and continue washing. Do this like every other panel, or top sections and then rinse it, and then bottom sections and then rinse it, or take the pressure washer and rinse out your mitt as well. Many different options. Just make sure that you're having a clean mitt on the panels. Now with wheels and tires, well, the wheels really are not that bad. The pre-wash cleaned them really well, and they're beating because we coated them. So I'm not going to use a heavy chemical on them because I just don't need to. The tires, I will use a dedicated tire cleaner. This one from Suds Lab is Total Tire Degreaser. Awesome stuff for rubber and plastic trim and tires. I'm also going to spray this in the wheel wells. But this I'll spray onto the tires. And I do have a wheel cleaner from the Eastwood Concours line. And I'm just going to mist it on just a little bit, not too heavy. Now, because we are dealing with delicate wheels, you could use a regular wheel brush, but I have these nice angled wheel woolly type brushes that I got from Ethos. And I mean, you can get these anywhere, but Ethos does sell them. And I just love the angled part of them because it's easier to get into these hard to reach areas. So perfect for black gloss or these types of satin finish wheels. And for cleaning, oh gosh, I have to really dig for that. For cleaning the wheel itself, I have these nice little wheel mitts that I got from Work Stuff. Other companies sell them too, but I got these from Work Stuff because they're very, very affordable. I just love the fact that you can easily put your hand in them and clean any type of wheel very quickly and efficiently. You can see how the foaming, the suds really do add to the lubricity, and it doesn't flick back any junk if you're just using just just water in your bucket. With these types of mitts, you're probably not going to deal with a lot of kickback, but if you're using brushes, then sometimes you get a lot of kickback and just kind of throws it back into your face or all over you. These cleaned up super easy. A nice tire brush for the tires. You need something a little aggressive. At least I like an aggressive tire brush. Not a ton of grime coming off the tires. I think he really takes care of this truck. And then just a quick brush of the wheel wells. And I am going to use a softer brush to get into some of these areas here where I don't think the mitt actually reached. This is a very, very soft brush. It's like one of those makeup brushes. Again, you could use something a little bit more aggressive if you needed to. Work Stuff makes some nice yellow or orange and white bristle brushes that are aggressive enough but still soft enough to not mess with these types of wheels. But yeah, the wheels are pretty clean. This is right after washing them. Look at how good they look. The brake dust has not eaten into them yet, which is great. So obviously he is cleaning them regularly. And we have water beading. Awesome. These will be very easy to dry now. We can just simply blow dry them. Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we want to see. Now, if you do want to add just a little bit of protection onto them, and this is an option. I have this stuff from Suds Lab called Ceramic Hydrocoat. It's basically a spray-on, rinse-off, quick ceramic sealant. You'll probably get a month to 2 months out of this, maybe longer on certain vehicles if you're not driving them on a regular basis. Spray it on, I let it sit for a couple of seconds and then rinse off. It just adds more beading, more hydrophobics, which is awesome. You can use it on the paint also, so it's an option. But this is great for those maintenance jobs. You want quick and easy ceramic protection, just adding another layer of hydrophobicness, hydrophobicity. Now we're looking at incredible hydrophobics. The truck is clean top to bottom. We have two options. We can blow dry the whole thing, which we could, and then just use the drying towel to sop up any little areas. In fact, that's probably what I'll do, is blow the majority of the water off the paint and then use the drying towels to get the rest of it, which is not going to be a lot. Up here, it actually is a lot of water, more than you think. So it really will saturate any of the drying towels. So let's blow the majority of the water off the paint and then dry it. But it is looking incredible. So as you saw Wifey doing, I'm going to reach all these high areas that she couldn't reach. And once again, you can just spray directly onto the paint. I'm going to spray onto the towel here and reach all these high areas and the roof and the tonneau cover in the back also. Now, an important thing to have is a high quality drying towel. This is a super plush thick towel, tons of different options you can have. This towel is, I think, perfectly sized. It's not too large, it's not too small. I think it's the perfect size and the perfect thickness as well. I'll have links to different towels down below, specific drying towels that you will definitely want to pick up if you are maintaining a ceramic coated vehicle, or really any protected vehicle, because the drying process is also very important. This is where you can actually induce some of your light marring and swirling. That's why we're using an aid like this. This does add a little bit of lubrication as well. So you're not just dragging a dry towel across the paint, which, even though this is soft, on soft, delicate paints, it could leave a little bit of marring behind. Just any contact on delicate paint is going to do that no matter what. But all of these tips can mitigate that. Over a certain amount of years, you're going to see marring on the paint. There's just no doubt about it. But once again, that's years down the road, not weeks or months. So one last thing I want to mention before we wrap up the video, because the exterior is pretty much done. All you really need to do is just go around the vehicle and double check with another towel. And again, you can still use the C2V3 as like a quick detailer. In fact, you can even water this down 1-to-1. If you are spraying directly onto the paint, it's pretty concentrated, it's pretty strong stuff. And just go around the vehicle and check things like the door handles. Usually around these areas, the wash mitt may have missed. So I'll go back around with another soft towel and the C2V3 and just hit around the door handles and any other areas when you're checking around the vehicle that just may have been missed. Either just extra water that's there, or sometimes you may just miss a little spot when you're washing, and there may be just a little bit of like a traffic film line or something on the paint that you missed. You can actually use this like a waterless wash type of thing, because it's going to be a small area. Just spray it onto the area and gently mop it up with your towel. You don't have to grind it in, just gently mop it up and you'll be totally fine. But sometimes little areas get missed like that and you don't see it until you're drying the vehicle, especially on a black vehicle. But one last thing I want to share with you is the door jambs. Now, we didn't really show this, but we've showed it in other videos. You can rinse out the door jambs. Now, the door jambs were protected. They weren't coated with the same coating that we put on the paint, just because we usually don't do that unless the customer requests it. But what I use for the door jambs is just a spray sealant. In fact, just using this alone is going to keep the door jambs cleaner, and it's going to bead water. And you really don't even need to use an all-purpose cleaner when cleaning them out. Once you've done it initially and protected it, the subsequent maintenance on it is going to be very easy. But why not add another layer of protection? So I'm going to just spray another separate towel. I don't use the drying towel that I use for the paint on the door jambs. I just don't like that idea, because there's still going to be something in the door jambs that, grease or something on the hinges or those gaskets, and you rub your nice dedicated exterior drying towel on them and get smudges and nasty stuff on them. I don't do that. An exterior drying towel is an exterior only drying towel. It's just me. I just like to keep those things separate. So I just have a dedicated nice soft towel for the door jambs. So I just dry them down. It's simple, it's easy, they're already protected. So there's no real dirt to worry about. Wow, he is loud. He is looking for a mate. So to finish up the wheels and the tires, here are a couple of options. You can use the C2V3 to touch up the wheels. There's obviously going to be some spots that may have been missed. I picked up some of the Clean Maker from P&S. I'm actually just going to spray it right onto the wheel, and I'm going to wipe down the entire wheel, just making sure to get all of the areas that wash mitt and the brush didn't reach. And also just wipe down the inner wheel barrel here, the painted part. It's coated, but this just gets so much grit and junk that it needs to be cleaned a little bit more aggressively. Now for the tire dressing itself, I'm using the new Suds Lab Graphene Tire Protection. This can be used on plastic and rubber, so perfect for tires and any plastic trim, but the trim here is coated already, so we don't need to worry about that. There's a couple of ways to apply the dressing. You can use sponges like this. I have the Suds Lab sponge as well. This is my favorite application, using a brush like this. This is dedicated for tires. A couple of sprays onto the brush and just work it into the tire. Great for knobby tires. You can spray it directly onto the tire, but I just find it a little bit more messy that way. I like to control it by putting it on the brush. Now, when you're done with your drying towel, how do you dry it? And how many times are you going to use it? Personally, I use drying towels like this 3 times max, and then they're going to go into the wash. But to dry them in between, here's what I've picked up, and this works really well. If you have any type of metal cabinets or anything that's metal, then these types of towel holders are going to be perfect. They're magnetic, so you can hang them on pretty much anything, your fridge or your metal cabinets, and then hang your towel on them. This way it keeps them clean, it keeps them away from anything that will get them dirty, and they'll dry out overnight. So I will have these little guys. I just got them on Amazon. They come in different sizes. They're perfect for drying towels like this.